it to some degree. And like I said before, people have memories, and they typically don't like getting burned or feel like they're being taken advantage of.
Now, the other thing I want to point out I didn't say was I think part of it is Thomas really gets diluted financially because of how much stock he has and how the stock has basically gone to pennies on the dollar. Um, and so in the interview I saw in one of the videos there, he was basically saying, I'm putting myself out on a limb. I'm putting my own money into this now to try to save it. But here's my concern. Being a critic, look, he had all the time in the world to save the company, and he had his 12 million in his bank he could have used. I mean, what's going to change now? That he's bringing in enough money for another quarter.
But I don't know. I think Greg, was it you that message in the group? I guess they're what, still advertising bundles and stuff that supposedly have in stock.
Yeah, they just posted on Twitter. I just put it up quickly before we came on the show that they're advertising a bundle here for I think it was 8.99 euros for a direct drive. One of the I was at 20 newtons. Like I can't remember. I have to look quickly at it. But yeah, they were. It all of a sudden came across my feed pretty quickly.
Well, I won't buy anything from them soon, but again, I'm still in that ecosystem, so I do kind of have my fingers crossed for them. Uh, but they got to kind of climb their way back. Let's move on. So, what does the F1 champion do when he is trying to wind down? Well, he winds up sim racing. All right. Actually, as you guys were
What is
talking,
your
I
positive
went ahead and
distraction when
snuck a view of this video in. And it's pretty neat because he throws a lot of props towards the sim racers. And he even mentions the fact that some of these guys have never been in a real car, but he talks about their driving style being exactly the way it should be even in real life, and he enjoys it because they are so quick that it actually still helps to make him push his level.
Yeah, it's a old video, not that old, but it's old video. We've seen it before, but it came across my feed again, and like you said, it's kind of a neat kudos to the sim racing community, and especially the guys that race at the top level.
Well, I just think, you see the competitive side of him, whether it's actually on the track or if it's, in the sim rig. There's a competition level that's here, and that's what it meets the need of. We've talked before. I mean, you got Tony Kanaan, who doesn't race professionally anymore. So what does Tony do? He feeds that need for competition, sim racing. Um, that's the again, it's still racing. It's just we don't have to get in an actual car to do it.
Well, I wish we had the other. I had another video here that I saw the other day of Max. He also plays, I think, Call of Duty on his spare time too, and streams it as well. And I guess there's a running joke with him between him and whoever he's gaming with that it's Max versus the hotel Wi-Fi always for when he's trying to play online with them. Seeing how good his connection is going to be when he's streaming and trying to play, relax playing a video game.
Yeah, I think it's just so cool. I mean, he's the world champ, and he's traveling the world, and he's just keen to get to the hotel and check the Wi-Fi, like you said. I mean, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to be left alone and sim race. Pretty cool. I saw today a quote from him from Miami. He intends to stay at Red Bull, even though the designer Adrian Newey is leaving.
I don't know. I've read some reports. There's a lot of money being thrown at him from Mercedes.
He referenced that. He had referenced that, but he said it wasn't about the money. It's about the competition and being in the right car, the fast car,
He
something to
knows.
that
I'm
effect. I'll see
pretty.
if I can find it.
I'm pretty sure those guys have their finger on the pulse and they know what's being done in the background. I know reading the articles this week with Adrian Newey, Adrian Newey stepped back from making stuff on the actual Red Bull Formula One car and he's working on their hypercar. So maybe it's not as big a deterrent as people think it's going to be to that team. But Mike, you were making fun of me the one time with I would come home from work and I drive a truck for a living and I get on American Truck Simulator and go and drive a truck for a bit. It's not a bad thing to do what you do as a hobby and what you do in your real life, is it?
Well, look, you got to love what you do for work to be successful, you know. Now, I found the quote. Here's the quote. My future is with Red Bull right now. I also hear amounts passing by. 150 million euros? For me, it's not about money. It's about performance. Because if I earned more and was racing for sixth or fifth place, I'd be quite grumpy at the end of the day. Right now, I can say that I want to stay with the team. I believe in the project we are working on. But in sports and in life, you never know what will happen.
So he's left it open there in case he wants to step away and he doesn't look like he promised something.
He's
Well,
committed, but left it open, right?
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he stays at Red Bull. He either finishes what first or second every single week. That's about where it ends.
But is that much more money worth the loss of happiness? I think he's kind of aware of that in that particular situation. It's not that much difference from certain quarterbacks being willing to restructure their contracts and even take a little bit less money if it means they can get enough free agents to win a Super Bowl ring.
Well, here's one thing I was thinking. He's been under the Red Bull banner his whole life. If he goes to say like an actual manufacturer, say Mercedes or something like that, what's like Red Bull's an energy drink and like this thing that's focused on trying to get younger adults and stuff like that. If you go to Mercedes or Aston Martin or something like that, it's more of a um, I would think the background or things that they would have him doing are a lot different than what Red Bull gets them to do in the off hours as well.
Yeah, he'd be bored.
All right, Brad, I got a question for you. Have we really had sim racing so long now that we're forgetting champions and having to go back into history and archives?
Well, so this was a really cool video. Somebody like me who's been sim racing since '96, I think. Um, DJ EJ put up a video taking a look back at Kevin King. Kevin King's been around since the very early days of NASCAR, probably 2003. Kind of chronicles. For me, it brought back a lot of memories. Back in the early days, you had the DMP League, which was Dale Juniors, and just the budding of online sim racing. It was very heavy league heavy at that point. Um, and I can remember Kevin King from the painting that he did to just following around, following a lot of the stuff that was going on, really back in the early 2000s. It was a really cool video. I mean, chronicles kind of the transition from 2003, NASCAR 2003 to iRacing. And, Kevin finished up, it was in the Coke Series last year. So kind of a full circle thing. If you get a chance to watch it, I would suggest it. If you don't know a whole lot of the history of sim racing, for those that have just gotten into this in the last few years, there's just a wealth of history, into the sport that we enjoy. If you don't know a lot of the background to iRacing, this kind of touches on some of that. So I thought it was a super great video. A lot of the names that popped up in those leagues, I can remember, reading about it and reading on forums and stuff like that. So it was really just kind of a cool trip down memory lane for me.
Nothing says the '90s like the yellowing cases that were kind of whitish, but they went yellow near the end.
Wow. Yeah, what a great video. I mean, props to DJ EJ. He turned it into a history lesson, like you said. A full look at this guy's racing career. You know what he's done for sim racing early on when when Dale Jr. and those leagues first popped up, he was dominating, winning a lot. Basically, is the what came across to me, and so props to him, and for him to come back, some 20 years later and make the Coke series and show his face again. He also talks about getting paint jobs with real race car teams, because he was known to paint everyone's car in the sim, and so word of mouth gets around, and he's had opportunities to paint cars, including the 21 Reese's Pieces, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup car.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most iconic junior schemes were Kevin King's creations. National Guard, Mountain Dew, stuff like that. So, again, I mean, it was just a lot of that stuff I think we kind of take for granted. You watch a NASCAR race, you see iRacing, covering the ticker at some point during the race. It was again just I like what you said, Mike, just a history lesson somewhat. So DJ UJ's just he's done a good job with a lot of the stuff that he's put out recently.
I was just gonna say, this kind of is gonna kind of tie into history that's gonna come back to iRacing here in the future with a car that they're going to be announcing eventually.
I'd like to see more videos of this nature, like maybe a series of history lessons, so to speak. Really well done.
Mike, before I forget to ask that, like I haven't watched this whole video. This doesn't go. It just stops. It's just the stuff all before iRacing, right? Like all the sim racing before.
No, so I
Oh,
mean,
it
he gets
does.
into to the early days. I mean, the
I was
Peak
like,
Series.
so like, did he talk about? Is it Richard Towler, who was the original champion?
Well, there was a lot of so he was involved in the racing back before it was iRacing, when they were doing the league races under Dale Jr.'s posse and all that, and like he talks about Denny Hamlin was there racing, and he was a hot shot, and coming in and trying to and actually running really well. But Martin Truex was there, and people like that too.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it
sim
was
racing again.
again a lot of the stuff he touched on was as somebody who was very heavy into 2003. When iRacing came out, there was a lot of hesitation to move to that platform. So guys tried to stick in the 2003 realm for quite a while. I was one of those. And Kevin even talks about that finally, it was like, all right, well, I got to try this. And it ends up getting involved at the very early days of what would end up being the Coke series. There was the Peak series was where it started out in a completely different way of getting into that. To be able to get into that series as opposed to, contender round, road to contender and all that stuff now. So, but yeah, like I said, just kind of a year by year, just, I mean, it's genres of sim racing to get to the point to where we're at now.
Because I was just wondering because I remember back when I first started watching the Peak series and like Richard Towler and stuff like that. I think they used to race. He used to race with Dale
Yeah,
and
Josh Berry,
all those guys, right?
Brad Davies.
Yep.
All right, it's only on the other side of the state for me, but it looks like there's a new sim racing location in Texas. Tell us a little bit about this one, Mike.
Yeah, this came across socials this week. They say they're the first dedicated sim racing location in Texas. And they have a nice ASR6, Advanced Sim Racing. Um, wow, and it's all decked up, by Podium One with motion, Recaro seat, triples, the whole shebang.
Coanda Motorsports might call them for stealing their color choice.
I don't think Coanda has the copyright on the color purple.
I just know that I remember how purple their place was, and it just reminds me of this.
Where's it located? I don't see that on the
Ace
front
Attack
page.
pedals. They got Gomez wheel. Ace base.
What city is it in?
New Brothel, Texas. Brothels? Braunfels?
Brunfels.
It's like Central Texas, maybe, right? North of Fort Worth, or
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
Supposedly,
Texas is a big place.
it's a very big place, but apparently they've got 20 FIA licensed full motion rigs. So if you want to try a motion rig and you're in the Texas area, it's a good opportunity to see what it's like.
I was just gonna say,
This is D-Box Gen 5 too.
you got to know that your business is gonna work to take that much to start off with that much type of stuff to do it.
You're right. So how much do these rigs cost that I just called all those parts out, Fawn? And how much do they cost if you're buying them from Podium One, who, builds them in Nashville, transports them, flies in and delivers them and everything? You're probably 40 grand each, with quantity discount. And how many did you say they were?
The website says 20.
20 times 40?
It's a quick $800,000.
That's just the equipment, not counting the building and everything else and the staff and man, it's a heavy investment. You're over a 1 million easily over a million on this project already.
There has to be an investor that is helping that out.
But what's the business model? How do you recover that million? I mean, how long does that take?
Well, we see it. It's funny because we have a place. I think of it. This is specific because this is sim racing, but we have a place here in our Toronto area. It's called Palladium, which is like all the old arcade stuff, and it's like a big playground for kids with arcades and things like that. It'd be a huge investment to start off with, but it obviously recoups its cost. But when you're something specific like this, it would be really hard to get that money back.
I mean, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, there's some that have opened up, and I guess they've gotten just kind of specific with either. I think they were doing like certain like league nights or stuff like that. I don't know. We've seen some of the stuff in Europe. I know that with the F1, but it's you've got a you know you got a center for it, but then there's a bar and there's everything else that goes along with it. So
Do you treat it like go-karts kind of thing? Like you're thinking like the go-kart model?
well, like the Top Golf model.
Okay.
I mean, it's a driving range, but it's definitely more than a driving range. It's food, it's a bar, it's everything else.
So there's a new place about a mile and a half from where I live called Andretti Chandler. And Michael Andretti and his family have opened up. It's an indoor go-kart track,
Is it FI
video
sanctioned?
games, food, booze, all that kind of stuff. Really high-end video games. They have VR games, and they have a F2 car hanging from the ceiling, when you walk in. It's pretty cool. I haven't been there, but I've seen the pictures.
Does F1 know they have that car? Is this
It might be an Indy Lights. I don't know what it was.
Is it sanctioned by F1?
No, I don't think so. But I don't know that he has sim racing at that facility. I haven't seen any pictures that show that they do. It's go-karts, video games, food, that kind of thing.
All right, next up, Brad, we have a video from DJ EJ about tweaking the fixed setups.
Yes, we had a video from DJ kind of walking through multiple cars. So from Arca to Xfinity to truck to I guess Gen 4 to next gen, about some of the things that you can do if you're in a fixed set, from adjusting your brake bias to your steering ratio. Kind of goes to stuff. I mean, a lot of us that we understand what to do, but kind of give some good guidelines in regards to brake bias. Lower your other brake bias, and ideally, the better the car is going to turn. But kind of give some guidelines based off of car on what to change on that. Because I mean, we know with a fixed set, there's just not a lot that you can change. Um, so and there's much discussion, many different times about opening up that box a little bit. But I thought it was a good video for those that do like fixed setups. I don't run fixed setup a lot, except for like during the winter. We run in the league. But then even in those, we're all, hey, what are you dropping the brake bias to? What are you changing the master cylinders to? Because we're all looking to try to make the cars as free or as easier to drive. And we all know that fixed sets are typically going to be super tight. And it's just trying to overcome some of that.
I thought the video really was better, not just to focus on fix that, but on how to handle brake bias, how to manage it, and then how to handle steering ratio. The brake bias, I mean, he told it to me like I'm a kindergartner, which I need that because when you guys start talking setup stuff, it's right over my head, and I just don't even hear it. But he explains it in a really good way. Like, do it like this: keep dialing it into the rear until they lock up under normal pressure, and then dial it back a couple steps. And that he basically tells you what to do that, and then he explains on the steering ratio when you change the number, he shows visually on the screen the steering wheel turning more or less depending on what number you are. So you can visually see, oh, 16 to 1, it's like this, 12 to 1, it's like this. And that's really helpful for me to learn it with the visual cues.
You mean the guides that iRacing's been missing that they should have had with the websites for years? Like, I think some of these things should have brought out already by iRacing, but it's good that we have someone in the public that wants to help out.
You're right. You couldn't find anything about steering ratio from iRacing that I know of that is, simple like this and easy to understand.
See, when I first learned like even the setup stuff in here, I knew some basic stuff from cars, but I didn't know what half the stuff did. I was running the truck series and the open series back in the day, trying to get my license to move up to the Xfinity or the Bush car at the time, and then move up to A. But the one season I ran the truck series, I just went out for a practice for I don't know, I practiced for 3 or 4 hours, and all I did is I took each each thing and made an adjustment to it and saw what it kind of did to the car. It wasn't an accurate way to figure out exactly what it did. I was just trying to figure out if it loosened or tightened things, but um, it was something to just try and figure out what it was because there was no guides out there telling me, you know, what doing this to a shock did or what besides the little graphic they give you in the garage that tells you what the adjustment does. It doesn't really, you know, it would be nice if we had something where it's saying, you're doing this adjustment. This is what it's changing on the car, kind of like what they do when they do the cutaway in the actual racing. It's like this is what it's doing.
A little pop-up window comes up and shows you a 15-second little video of what you're doing.
All right, we've got an update from Tyler Hudson, Mike.
Yeah, he said he had an awesome time at the Greenville Speedway Saturday night in the iRacing car. Ended up one spot short in P2. And boy, that car looks good. Black on the front with a white logo on the front hood, and the rest of the car is kind of opposite. It's all white background, and then the red and blue stripes and stuff on it. Blue logo on the side panel.
Yeah, also had a link in there to, the onboard video. So pretty neat. Again, have yet to really dig into any sort of dirt racing on iRacing, but Tyler does a good job.
We hadn't seen one of these in a while, Mike. Not top 10.
The not top 10 moments. iRacing put out the YouTube video. Um, yeah, I mean, some of these were good. First one, the car kind of goes flying and then it disappears and then he's upside down. And yeah,
So if you want to find out things not to do, probably a good video to watch.
So the pileups at the big tracks, like the Talladega, like right in the middle of the video, we have the Talladega Super Speedway and this huge pileup in the Xfinity car, and oh my gosh, I think one guy gets through. The rest of them are done.
Is that the one with like 60 cars?
Yeah, it's
There,
crazy.
there's definitely a sports car death where everybody is just blocked, like the whole track's blocked.
And then you had IMSA cars in the rain at Charlotte, Roval, and I think they had damage off, but yeah, there was a lot of carnage, a lot of cars too. But like, they're wrecking before they even get to the line. Like, it's one of those deals.
I think with that one, I think everybody was on slicks or something instead of rain tires.
No, it looks kind of like the beginning of Sebring.
The rain certainly helps for these blooper reels, that's for sure.
Well, this is interesting. We keep wanting to see, something happen on the states side, but there's a sim racing community over in Asia, Brad.
Yeah, so we just had just kind of a quick post from iRacing, um, uh, talking about the Korea Automobile Racing Association provided race spectators with the opportunity to check out iRacing at their event booth. So obviously, some sort of a motor event in Korea, but iRacing was set up there, and again, just continuing to give other people opportunities. I mean, we have a tendency sometimes to think about just the states when it comes to iRacing, and we've talked before that the world audience is probably, especially Asia, Europe, and stuff like that, probably much larger, than what we are here in the states. So hey, any time that we can spread the good news of iRacing, it's good.
Like you would think South Korea is pretty high on technology and stuff there. You would think that we would have more people involved already, but I don't know of anyone from I've never seen anyone from South Korea online.
Could it be connection-based type problems, maybe?
Oh, they have good internet there. They had 5G in South Korea before the United States did.
Well, just depends on what the club is. Is that are they all just lumped in with the Asia?
Could be. Yeah. But I was just thinking as you were talking about how worldwide it can be, man, there's going to be at some point some huge growth spurt in iRacing as the international community really embraces iRacing. You would think that, that I think they said 250,000, that's gonna jump at some point as, they hit mass, people know about it.
All right, next question. We've talked about this about hoping to see a choose cone in iRacing, and interestingly, there's a lot of negative feedback to this choice. Pun not intended.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, how hard can it be?
How hard is it to even get lined up with the way it works right now?
I was gonna say. I mean,
With people coming off pit road and doing all that stuff, yeah.
I'll give you this: if they would fix that problem, they first. I mean, I think that's more important. Get that fixed first. When somebody comes off pit road, they should be behind the penalty cars. If they come off pit road, too late. If they come off pit road when the with the pace cars right in front of or right behind them, then they should line up in the back because that's what they do in real life. And then you end up having to delay the green because or the penalty car gets screwed because literally it says get ready, and then about 1 second before it goes green, it'll say let a certain car by. They need to fix that first. But um, it's a neat idea, but at the same time, getting lined up is pretty hard. And you also at some point you're probably going to have longer cautions to be able to have time to set up the choosing as well.
My question is so do they penalize when someone's not paying attention and runs straight over the mark on the road or whatever it is? Like,
Well, since it's digital, they could literally basically just force you to go with which side of the cone you are down to the pixel.
Well, look, I think this would take almost an entire recoding. What happens right now if, on a green flag, if you pass somebody on the inside, you immediately get a black flag. I mean, you can imagine the amount of recode that's going to happen for guys to be able to shift either left or right, advance positions. I mean, you could talk about an opportunity. You could pass 4 or 5 cars depending on which line you choose. I mean, again, we have a hard enough time if a leader spins his tires and you pass him because you're avoiding him, you end up with a black flag. So I just don't see it ever happening.
yeah,
Yeah, but when they say oval refresh, part two, maybe that's the big coding thing they need to do, Brad, is fix all that. There's so many things wrong. Like even this week, who got just hosed on the passing to the left? Raise your
Oh,
hand, Brad.
well, I
Raise
got
your hand, David.
David got the pass into the left. I got hosed on passing under yellow because the guy that got destroyed in a wreck still gets his position back ahead of me. When the yellow came in. Never mind, I'm stopping.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot to fix. So you guys are saying we need that fixed before we do the choose rule, the choose cone. Fix it all. Let's add the choose cone and fix all the other things we just mentioned. The passing under yellow, passing to the left at the start, um, the giving back the position when the guy's wrecked, the coming off pit road, and having to give spots up. Yeah, all that stuff.
All right, what's this next little video about, Mike?
I think Greg maybe put this one up, but it's a TikTok from a guy, Philip Jeppel. And you can tell he is into sim racing big time. He's got a pretty nice looking rig, and he basically says he spends all his free time doing it, and he even shows himself in his bed cuddling with his formula wheel.
here's
He's got a
here's a
roof
question
on that
for you all.
rig.
he has a really nice setup.
Yeah, here's a related question. Have you ever had a sim racing dream?
Yeah. Yeah, I did before I started to buy everything again last year. I started thinking about what it was like when I used to sim race.
Yeah. Then after he bought everything, he had a nightmare about trying to pay for it.
Cash, man, paid cash.
I had a nightmare. I just have nightmares about all the spinning cars that always home in on me like a Fox 2 missile.
Are you
That's
sure? Hold on.
That's a heat seeker, FYI. In case
Are you mixing up your sim racing and your flying simulations together in the same dream?
No, because I'm actually really good at dodging missiles in the F-18.
If you want to start shooting cars, we can recommend Mario Party if you want to shoot something at another car.
Look, to Greg's point though, this got some great equipment. I just realized his roof is really for ambient lighting. He's got the Philips Hue bars up above his head. He's got a black thing over the top as well to help with that immersion. And then some of those wheels he has are like the most expensive ones. The one he's cuddling with is like that Porsche wheel that's like $2,300 or something.
There's a video of him here. He's like, what do I do after work? Do I relax? Or no, I put my sim racing shoes on and hop in the rig.
Hey, it's a lifestyle. I mean, that's what this video is about, really. I mean, and I think I'm in this lifestyle. I mean, my rig is in my dining room. So,
I will sometimes register for a race with my remote desktop on my way home from the gym, right? If it's like an IMSA race and I don't care about qualifying, I'll be like, well, I can be an extra 10 minutes later and still make the race.
His screen is awesome. That way the screen looks pretty good.
All right, we had another patch come out. This is called Patch 4. And a special note on it is that this patch removes Easy Anti-Cheat and restores Epic Online services to its designation. The issues that resulted from this initial change at the beginning of the season 2 have been resolved, and there's nothing that the members really have to do for that. There's been an update to the paint shop for Huskinville sponsors, and I think the biggie is the anti-cheat. I'm right. There's some there's some improving for the ambient rain, some additional crash logging. What's this about pit stops?
It's about multiple tire compounds. Basically, they just made it a little bit smarter for the system. If you go to make the change, like, wet to dry, the pit crew will immediately change the tires, like when you make that adjustment.
So like when you're sitting on pit road and you just sit there, you said, "Oh, I'm just going to switch from slicks to rains." It'll do it right away now.
Right.
Or you might be in a situation where you're getting damage fixed, and you just kind of change your mind and decide to go ahead and slap the tires on.
That never happens. You never get damaged when you're sitting on pit road when you're doing anything here. Is that true?
You don't get damaged when sitting on pit road. You sit on pit road cause damage. Not sure.
The spotter will tell you now when you're gridding if you have the wrong tires on. That's kind of neat. Lots of little things, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
They've adjusted the bottom of the track at Indianapolis to increase grip.
Is it me, or does it just seem like there's a lot more fixes and patches this season than the last couple?
I think it's just there's stuff that they didn't encounter with the rain being part of a lot of it, right? And I think the bigger issue we have now too is there's a lot more racing with different tire compounds coming in here. It's not just the one tire in each race, and there's things that you gotta, like IndyCar now being back, having multiple compounds all the time with that, and rain and slick tires. It's just, I think there's just these bugs that at least they're taking care of it, not waiting till like the next update.
On average, there's 3 to 4 patches. On average, there's 3 to 4 patches per season. And sometimes those patches are even when they have some content that just comes out late. Like I think wasn't Next Gen actually just a patch?
Well, and it's just, you know what? Just do it. It doesn't affect any of us. Just fix the problems if you get them. You might as well get them done and not wait.
Well, something we are going to have to wait for a little while. I'm going to throw to you, Greg, because you teased it earlier.
It wasn't me. I think Bobby brought it up first, but I cannot wait for this. This is obviously, we were referencing it earlier when they're talking about NASCAR 2003. Well, Dale Jr. tweeted out 2 car models of the Ford Taurus and the Chevrolet Impala, I guess at that time, would be getting ready to, actually no, is it Impala then, or is it the Monte Carlo? It's Monte Carlo back then, right?
Yeah, Monte Carlo.
Anyways, the 2003 era of Cup cars is going to be coming to iRacing. They've been scanned. So from what I heard, it was Matt Kenseth's Ford, and who was the Chevy? That was the 29 car, right?
Yeah, Kevin Harvick's Brickyard, 2003 Brickyard 400 winner.
Where's the Bill Elliott Intrepid?
Yeah, so if you scroll down on the thread to the comments, Dale Jr. has other photos showing those 2 cars that you just mentioned, and then on the third or the final post, they show the cars actually being scanned and whatnot. It looks like one of them is right there in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Was that what I see?
And David, you always talk about the Twisted Sister. These things have some twisted up panels that do not line up.
Yeah, it's not the most extreme that I remember, but you can see the asymmetry in the car, for sure.
The Chevy front end is so not symmetrical.
Just look how much lower the right front is than the left front.
Well, Twisted Sister, that's what it was. So, Harvick's car was that's at the Richard Childress Museum in Welcome.
Okay.
They got to be able to get, because you know when they release these, they're going to be begging for the other two cars too, right?
So if you click on the Kevin Harvick one in the museum, you can see the little silver dots that they put on the car for the scan. They put them like every 10 to 12 inches apart. They're kind of evenly spaced. And then on some of those silver dots, they have yellow tape as well. And my understanding is the scanner picks up those dots. That's what gives it the depth of the scan and stuff. Because the smooth metal surfaces probably confuse the scanner.
Didn't
Well,
they used to like put powder on them?
well, they also, this is the same way that they do motion with people, right? They put those little bulbs on people to watch them
Right.
move. It's the same process.
Same concept, yeah.
Look, even if you look at this one where they're in the when he's got the side of the car and he's sitting on the ground here. Look at the back end, the shape of the back end of the car. How much it's not a flat rear end.
The right side of the back of the car is like forward more than the left side.
It's all about side force and getting the spoiler out. I mean, that's why everything was, they crab walked, and I mean, they were all cockeyed. So
Now the best part about this is that's 900 horsepower.
Yay. Now this is, am I wrong? Is this Gen 4 or is this something else?
We're on Gen 7. Yeah, it would have been 4 because COT was 5.
Now somebody on the replies asked him, you're going to have a different model for short track versus super speedway, right? And I don't think he got a reply, but is that a concern? I mean, because these cars were quite different.
Weren't these the wicker cars? They had the wicker on the top?
no,
No? What year was those?
that was probably 99 and 2000. Because I mean, Earnhardt Senior was still running when they were running the wicker bill on top.
Did they? Okay. But yeah, you're probably right, Mike. There's going to obviously have to have different configurations because even if you think about it, what did they build? They had they had short track cars, they had super speedway cars, they had road course cars. They all had different bodies they made, right?
Yeah, intermediate. I mean, it was you had specific cars for each type of track.
It just makes me excited because this is what I grew up racing. 2003 was my most used sim before iRacing. Like I love finding paint jobs online, like people when they would bring out a car set for that next season or whatever, and then you had the 3 or 4 manufacturers there in that one year too, right? Because you got the Intrepid still that came in what 2001 was Dodge's first year.
Yeah,
So
but
Pontiac was on its way out.
yeah, but the one thing we never got in our 2003 was Twisted Sister. So you still had the symmetrical bodies to some degree. That's what the car models were. Never really got the old Twisted Sister.
Some of the comments, Gary Sexton asked, there's certainly a super speedway car there to scan though, right? And then Greg Elliott says, hey, will this be a graphical update or will they have the proper wheelbase as well? Driving the nationwide cars with 900 horsepower has been kind of weird. And then AJ Renfo, but why is the ARCA car still the Gen 4 if the real ARCA series has been running Gen 6 for years? So these guys point out a good point. I mean, the ARCA car in iRacing, the Gen 4 in iRacing, it's all messed up.
So maybe this becomes a Gen 4, and maybe do they scan an ARCA car down the road?
Yeah, remember when Gen 4 started? I mean, they accidentally put too much horsepower on an ARCA car. And even though it wasn't really a Gen 4 body, we called it the Gen 4 car and kept it because everyone loved it. So now we're finally getting a proper scan of those cars.
So this
for that.
So that will be just considered a strict ARCA car. It won't even say Gen 4 probably on it.
Right. I would presume that this fills that Gen 4 role, and it's a full scan. It'll have the right, wheel length and everything.
This one, yeah, this will be accurate. And then, like I said, maybe they do need to do a rescan of ARCA now that ARCA's a pretty popular series still to watch in general. And why not try and get the right car for the customers? I can see this being one of the most raced cars for a while on the sim, kind of like the way the 87 came back.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, we kind of talked about that in chat this week was, um, will this become more popular than the current Gen 7, is like a NIS series and A Open. And I don't think, these historical cars and the historical series will ever gain as much traction as the current series. I just don't think it ever will. But you're right. When it initially comes out, it'll be quite popular, like the '87 was. But look, if you look over the Winter series, the '87 Winter series, they had a good group of people, of a few hundred people that ran that, but it wasn't a lot of people that run it.
So now, does something like this take over a Winter series? Does this become a Winter series in the fall, or in the fall?
Ooh, I like that. We change the car up.
I feel like there's so much. This is the history of iRacing right here. This is where their most, I guess there would be most purchased sim would have been 2003. So this is where people's nostalgia will come back, and I think they're gonna enjoy it. If they get this right and it's a fun car to drive, I feel like it's gonna trump what any of the other cars ever did.
All right, the next item you have to be a little bit more local for. It's because it's happening in Indiana area, which means Justin might look into this. And it's a post from Tony Kanaan. Matt Malone says he'll be there. It's on Sunday, May 5th. You can check it out. His Sim Garage. He's going to be allowing people to join him in his private garage May 5th from 10 to 4. It's got the address right on there.
Isn't
Is that a good idea to put your address out in public when it's full of
but it's not his
thousands of dollars of sim rig equipment?
But it's not his house. It's a shop type thing, right?
Yeah, and it's a
private garage.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser, so I couldn't figure out who the charity or what they're raising funds for, unfortunately. But I mean, hey, it looks like a good opportunity to be able to meet Tony and probably have a good time.
I was gonna say, Matt Malone has been with him at that shop a bunch of times racing, anyways, hasn't he? Didn't they race the endurance race there?
Yeah, I think Matt lives within driving range. So, boy, if like Justin is in the area, I would jump at this. Like, go get to meet Tony, maybe get to try his little his rigs and stuff.
He better show up with some of our merch when he goes.
I was just gonna say our merch and an exclusive interview for the team, right?
Yeah, you hit voice record on the iPhone and just, ask him questions. Look, I interviewed Kyle Busch that way. I went to the rally cars on dirt thing, whatever they call it, and Kyle Busch was there, and I interviewed him about his Monday night league race. So like all these people are around, and there were fans asking for autographs, and there were other reporters even. And I just acted like I was a reporter. I held my phone up to his face. I'm like, well, how'd you do Monday night in the Monday night league? I saw you got wrecked out, blah, blah, blah. And he talked about it. And it was great. It was just like, it was great. We put it on the show.
So some of the bullet lists on his flyer are simulated racing demonstration, driver meet and greet, sale of team kit, merch, and simulator equipment, collectible car showcase, and food and coffee.
Collectible cars, like his actual personal cars, or like small cars? Are they talking about like diecast?
It's probably his cars.
Well, at the top it says presented by Millennium Sounds, which sounds to me like a car stereo company or something.
Let's look it up.
While you're looking that up, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next topic. Feel free to jump in and interject. This week in iRacing, Brad.
Yeah, so we've been doing this each week. And iRacing puts out a post, detailing things that are going on that week. The kind of the normal suspects this week. We've got the NIS series is at Kansas. We've got the FIA F4. Again, the regional tours. You got the Americas, the Asia, Pacific, Europe. Again, we've talked about the BMW Power Tour. Again, a rotating car and track each week. Rainmaster, we talked about a week or two ago. The weekly
At
iRacing.
Long Beach.
Yep. So the weekly racing challenge. So the good old Ringmaster, Drive Master, and then the college eNASCAR College iRacing Series is as well. And then we got Coca-Cola race coming up next week. So eNASCAR Coca-Cola. And then a couple weeks we've got the Nürburgring 24 hours. I know we talked about that last week as well. So that's 17th through the 19th. So a lot of stuff happening over the next couple weeks in iRacing.
Okay, so just to go back there, Mike, Millennium Sounds is automated systems featuring state-of-the-art audio, video, lighting, shading, security, and energy management. So that's basically a smart home system.
Nice.
And they're located in Indiana.
Well, you mentioned it. The Nürburgring is coming up May 17 through 19. It's got the GT3, the Porsche Cup, the GT4, the TCR, and the GR86. Let's pull up the post and see if they've got BOP up yet. The answer is no.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Typical time slots 22, 7, 12, and 16. Got to have that D 4.0. The sim date start time is going to be June 1st, with the session's time of day being 3:13 p.m. And I learned specifically, I've mentioned this already once, that means that the green flag is going to hit right around 4 p.m. on the track.
Isn't this close to when the Indy 500 weekend is then too? It's got to be that one of those week. It's got to be one of those weekends around there, wouldn't it?
I think if by memory, the Indy 500 in iRacing is like the mid-May, like 15th through 17th, something like that.
Well, this is 17th to 19th.
Indy 500 is May 27th through June 2nd.
So it's later.
Yeah, remember, they had to plug that in after the fact because it came in after everything else is already set.
So we're running it after the actual race.
Yeah, the actual race is on the same 24th, right?
Oh, it is? Yeah, okay.
26.
So it is
26, right?
I was hoping it would be the weekend that you could run the 500 and the 600 in the same weekend, the week that we'd be on two of them in a row.
The double.
But David's got to get in a plane in his sim and across the crossover and get over to the track.
You know how quick of a flight that is in an F-18?
Tell that to the people that are trying to win the Tony Stewart sweepstakes where he gets to go to both races.
I entered that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Your commuter jets don't go supersonic.
Not anymore. There used to be one.
Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find the podcast. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate that. Check out our Discord and get involved in the discussion. We are in there 7 days a week. And you can check the show notes at iRacersLounge.com. We got merchandise available at iRacersLounge.shop. And we're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, Brad. Which one of our fantasy pickers is completely over Dover?
So our top 10 after Dover, we had Race Attic in first, JT C2C in second, Fat Boy 1990 in third, TGI Racing in fourth, followed by Shane 7272, uh, G Joe, oh good lord, 24X Connor Truman, Jedi McFly, AZ Newbie, and then Dollar Cents in 10th. So I
Brad, I
think
got a message from the JTC 11C. That his name is actually Jeff Creamer. He wanted to let us know who he actually was. So, yeah, Jeff Creamer.
so. Jeff, well, congrats, Jeff. You finished second.
So at
Second for Dover. Well done.
what point are these guys gonna freaking run out of Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex each week? Because they all seem to have high scores. So at some point they got to be running out of their the amount they're using.
Because you can only use them X amount of times, can't you?
Yeah, 10 times, and then the playoffs you get a reset.
All right. So,
10.
what do you think about Denny Hamlin? Calling his shot, and what else
Oh,
has happened?
he called his shot. He's one of the two fastest cars all season. Big whoop. It was either going to be Larson, Truex, or Hamlin in that race, unless some funny business happened.
He
Yeah,
did
I
it
mean,
though.
he did. He did. I mean, Dover was Dover. I thought it was a pretty good race. I mean, it's what I expect from Dover. Um, I think the bigger takeaway was, as usual, I think the Saturday race was better. Xfinity race was a great race. I mean, a lot of discussions came out of the week, aero blocking and all that stuff, and I don't know. Um, again, Dover was Dover. So it's a nice track if you've never been. We went and saw a race there back in 15. We lived about an hour away, so that's a great place to go see a race.
You're never going to get rid of aero problems as long as there's a car in front of it taking the air away. They're just not going to. There's no way to put the air coming off a car that punches a hole into it back into the
No,
car behind.
yeah, no. I mean, look, we've been complaining about arrows since, gosh, the early 2000s. I mean, it was, that was the whole problem with the intermediate package everywhere was you couldn't pass. I mean, some of the discussion this week too has been, the Gen 7 cars. It's more defensive than it is offensive, and I think that's the frustration that a lot of drivers are having now. Is you just play defense, and as a driver, you don't have any offense when you come up behind somebody. Um,
The rear view cameras too are playing too much of a role
I don't think
in this
that's.
defensive driving.
I don't think that makes a difference because their spotters would still do the same thing. I think the biggest thing is that diffuser. The way that they was. I don't remember what show. Maybe it was a Denny show that he explained how the diffuser sucks the car down to the track, and how that when that car crosses in front of it, there's nothing that's going under the car, which causes the car just not to have any
Yeah.
grip.
I'll science nerd out for you here real quick. A plane, right, flies because the wing makes the air travel faster over the top of the wing, so it gives it lift instead of downforce. Well, what the diffuser does is it basically makes the wind or the air under the car travel faster, which lowers its pressure, which sucks the car down.
yeah, same thing that a wing on a race car does. It's the opposite of a plane. Um, that's what creates downforce. So, um, yeah, I don't know what you do.
Take the
Uh,
damn diffuser out. That's
yeah,
what you do.
yeah. I mean, again, we're literally running sports cars on ovals. I mean, it's an IMSA
So
car. I hate to say
If
I
you
that.
had
took
a
it, if you took it off, the car probably doesn't work as what it's intended. It probably would just spin out because of the way they designed a flat floor. It just doesn't have anything that would create downforce besides the top of the car. And I think it's I
They've
don't
got
think it's
enough
as
tire
easy.
for short tracks. Take it out at the short tracks.
Yeah, but yeah,
so was talking to Justin about this arrow block and arrow push and all this the other night, and I told Justin, when NASCAR fans are hearing these podcasts and different discussions about aero, you as a iRacer, as a eNASCAR iRacer, have a unique perspective on this aero push stuff because you've experienced it. You're in iRacing, running these races every week. You know what it's like to get aero tight behind somebody and so forth. And when regular fans, they might not just grasp the whole concept of it, but as an iRacer, you certainly have that upper hand.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's running this week at Kansas. I'm looking, trying to keep the nose poked out, underneath somebody or above somebody because I'm trying to get nose on the air of the car. I mean, I'm trying to get air on the nose of the car.
Add to the fact that the car is so neutered. When you properly set up a pass to pull up to gain position on them, you just don't have enough horsepower to pull away from them before the next corner, and then they just pinch you down in the next corner, and you can't get the exit.
Yeah, that's the same problem they're having in the Cup Series. I mean, that's why it's all about track position. If you watch the race this past Sunday, I mean, when I think it was Denny and Larson, when Truex was leading. I mean, that restart, they ran like 15 laps side by side because they know whoever gets the second position is going to stay there because you just can't pass. I mean, that's been frustrating at Kansas this week. It's just side by side, and you can pull somebody, you get a nose out coming out of one, but if you're on the inside, you just can't get the momentum up because, again, like Dave said, you just don't have the horsepower to be able to pull a pass off.
Right? What do we like at Kansas?
Hendrick or Gibbs. I don't know who else can
More
win
the
a race.
same, right?
Yeah,
or the 45 car that's won there with 3 different drivers in the last 3 different races.
That's basically a Gibbs car. So I mean, again, it's either Hendrick or Gibbs.
So we've got parity going really well with this car, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word to use. I mean,
I think there was sarcasm based on what he just said.
I know, I know there was. I'm just trying to think of a. Yeah, it's not parody.
Parody, maybe instead of parity.
There you go.
So.
That's the title.
All right, so closing out fantasy overall after Dover, still got iRacing Mason in the lead with 2171, but followed closely by Canadian at 2105, Connor Truman in third, Cletus 545 in fourth, followed by Fat Boy 1990, then Shane 7272, TGI Racing, Dollar Cents, JTC 2C, and Stu 24.
Mike, I want to see you climb into this next racing rig that we're covering in the hardware software section.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. I mean, you have to get into it just like a real NASCAR because it is a real NASCAR. Victory Sim posted up on socials his 1-to-1 NASCAR simulator goes out to paint next week and will be up and running soon. He's going to have a Sigma motion system, DK6, ZimiCube wheelbase, an active pedal set, triple 65s, Philips Hue ambient lighting, and it's all built from a former Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity car. So he's basically got the chassis where the driver would sit up into the firewall. He's got nothing in front of the firewall. There's no engine or anything. Behind where the driver sits is the bars just go down and in, so it's just like the middle part of a chassis. He's got it on
it's just the roll cage,
a big square chassis that has wheels on it, rollers.
Yeah, it is just basically the roll cage.
It's I guess they would call it the monocoque part of it because you don't have the front or you don't have the front clip.
No front clip, no rear clip.
It's the greenhouse. There we go. That's the word they use. It's greenhouse.
Pretty neat idea. Should turn out to be a good project.
Wasn't there a guy that used to stream in a racing helmet and stuff that used to be in a car, like a half car that he'd always hop into, Mike, that we used to cover on here. Yeah, I want to say he was a Jeff Gordon guy. He would wear a fire suit. He had everything on, and he'd hop into an actual.
Jason Jacoby.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, he had like a car in his basement or something.
I remember covering a rig where a guy had triples literally right in front of an actual car as well.
So what I thought was neat, well, I think because I was the one that shared this, but the plan for this is that you'll be able to come by and actually rent time on that on the rig for a realistic training solution. So I think they're down in either Carolina or South Carolina, North or South Carolina. So pretty neat, not too far from there. Get it up, man.
Triple 65s.
Yeah, they'd actually posted an updated social media post, some pictures of it after it come back out of the paint booth. It looked good. Just didn't get time to put it up in the script.
So they're not going to put any shell around it. They're just going to leave it as an open roll cage.
I guess so. Again, they just posted one picture of it coming back out of paint. Solid white, looked good. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but we'll keep all the listeners updated on it.
All right, Mike, talk about your wheel here.
Drool time. Here he's going to drool over it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so OC Racing, is turning out to be a great, sim equipment review channel. And he does a really good job on his videos. The way he films them and the way the product, like he'll put a white background and get the wheel in front of it. Like it's very professional the way he presents it. But regardless, the product is the Asher Racing McLaren wheel. And this is the one with all the bells and whistles. Now, if you recall, Asher Racing had a deal with McLaren. It was announced, I think, 2 sim expos ago. And they were releasing a series of wheels from McLaren. And this is the final one that has all the bells and whistles. It's got a display. And man, I like this wheel. Look, I liked Asher Racing. When I went to go pick my Cube Controls wheel, I almost bought an Asher Racing wheel, the one without the display, the V3 they have, or I think it was the V2 at the time. But these wheels look great.
Yeah, nice layout. Nice layout. I've just kind of run out of things to say on the Formula wheels, except that it does have the 3 paddles in the back on each side.
They have ones without the screen. They got one. This is the one with the screen.
It is just if you're looking for the ultimate Formula type steering wheel, with it's gonna give you probably everything that you need and more for sim racing. This is, I don't know where else you want to look.
This is 1,500 euros. Look, if you were looking at a Gomez wheel with the display, they're like 1,200, I think. For just a little more money, this is a step up from that. I really feel like it is.
I still just wouldn't
Very
want to
clean
spend
look.
that much on a rim.
I like both of those thumb encoder placements on each side. They're like perfectly. You got the top one if you right by the where your thumb would curl around, and then you can get access to. But I don't know if I'd need 4 of them. But they're just it's just perfect the way that it's put.
The buttons, the push buttons, Greg, don't just have color coming through. They have symbols on them that are colored from the back. I mean, it's a very unique look.
Yeah, like I like how it has the it's assuming you're gonna need a mute button, turn your mute on and off, but it's kind of weird that they did it. But it's just 12 functioning or 2 12-foot functioning button or twist knobs, whatever you want to call them. It's just I don't have that kind of I don't have that kind of money.
Now it's based on the official McLaren Artura GT4 wheel and uses identical components of the real racing steering wheel with the esports optimized functionality.
Now we know why it's 1,500 euros.
Well, you get the McLaren logo on it too. I mean,
That's worth
I'm keen
500, I'm
on
sure.
McLaren.
I just like
Fantastic wheel, guys.
I want to buy one of these type of rims at some point to get rid of having the JRT app on my screen the way it is. I'd love to have it on its own display. So something like this would be kind of cool that you can use that kind of stuff with.
It's
So
a
I just
hard decision to decide, do you want a wheel with a display or without? You know, for me, when I made that decision, it was about money. It was about trying to be prudent. It was like an extra 3 or 400 to get into a different one with a display, and I was trying to be a little bit prudent. So that's why I picked without it. But if I was doing it again with how many different wheels I like out there that are in this $1,500 range, I would probably just get one of these.
I think a lot of it's got to do with the type of cars that you drive too, whether or not the car's got a DDU or not. I mean, if it's got a DDU on the wheel, if it doesn't have a dash, an actual physical dash in the car, you either got to lock this. If you don't have a dash on your wheel, you've either got to freeze the wheel on there. So from an immersion standpoint, that changes. That's where I look at it. I don't have one with a DDU built in. Don't drive a whole lot of cars that have a DDU on the wheel. So um, again, I think that kind of gets down to car specific. It's a lot of money. If you don't race a GTP or a car that it needs a dash continually like that, I just don't know. For me, it's just it would be excess.
I probably, sorry David, I probably feel like I should, if I'm complaining about JRT, I should probably just get a tablet and just put the JRT on a tablet.
Yeah, or an old phone. Um, what I like about the JRT is that it's pretty universal to all the different cars for me, and whereas I guess a display could transfer to all those as well, but JRT is kept up to date, right, and very customizable. Some of these displays might get a little locked in, but I did come to a realization thinking as we were talking about how McLaren probably adds 300 to the price. Any guy that's sim racing nowadays, especially if they ended up buying one of these, would never ever be able to tell his wife she can't have a designer handbag.
Yeah.
Stop.
It's a designer wheel, right?
Brad, I'm gonna refute your thing about having the McLaren on a thing. It's on Fanatec here, steering wheel that I have. It didn't cost over $300.
Isn't that the company that's almost bankrupt?
Yeah, well, it wasn't bankrupt when I bought it. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they're going bankrupt because they didn't charge enough for the McLaren wheel.
Man, the quality on this wheel is something, though. I mean, if you're in the market, you must look at the Asher Racing.
Well, maybe we can get an update on Fanatec in about 2 months. But we also have a 2 month update on a guy switching over to a huge TV, Brad.
And speaking of wheels, he's using the wheel I just showed Brad on the screenshot.
Yeah, so we had an update video from a random call sign. We looked at this, I guess, probably about a month ago. Um, he went to a very large TV for a monitor, with the thoughts, from an FOV standpoint, getting away from triples to as opposed to an ultra wide. And at the end of the day, I think he's happy with what he's got. He does say that there's some issues with the TV. Typically it's going to be the refresh rate that you've got to be able to run it at. I again, I think it's better than a single monitor, but for me, it's it's just it doesn't matter how big of a TV you get, you still don't get the proper field of view from a single monitor, no matter how you cut it with whether it's an ultra wide or anything else. I just don't think you get a good field of view from one screen.
So this got me thinking, though, if a TV is good enough for singles, maybe three TVs are good enough for triples. Like when I do go to some big triples, maybe it makes it more affordable to pick televisions over monitors. I don't know. That's kind of what it got me thinking.
Yeah, I think that part of the issue is going to be the refresh rate, and again, I think there's limits with TVs. TVs are getting better. You know, uh, I don't know. I when I built mine, I didn't even look at TVs to even think about doing that. So it may be an opportunity to do that. Um, again, I think I would probably go VR before I would go with a single monitor ever again.
Yeah, it's a neat idea. And so maybe someday I'll try it. We'll see.
All right, so I watched this video. This was how many of these do you need? He says these are the top five. But Mike, I only counted four, and I think I watched it twice.
Well, yeah, you can't title it the top four. It would sound weird, right? But right, so he came up with Velcro strips to basically clean up your cable mess. And I actually did this after I moved. I bought a whole roll of Velcro strips and had some scissors and just cut little 8-inch strips, and that's how I cleaned up the cabling. And the neat part about doing Velcro is it's reusable. You undo it, you have to run another wire. So you just undo it and add the extra wire and redo it. So it's reusable. Don't leave your sim rig in a mess. The Velcro's cheap. Next was gloves. Yeah, some people do gloves. I actually don't. iFlag, and then finally the Rev light bar, which is this RPM lights in front of so you can see when to shift. So do you
Yeah,
guys have any of those or?
I'm a combination of Velcro and zip ties. So when I built mine, I've got these little like clip-in clips that go in to the 80/20 um to run the wires through. But I bought a bunch of Velcro straps. They're just not they're too big to go through there. So I use zip ties on the stuff that's really not going to change all my power cords and stuff like that. But I do use Velcro for anything else that I'm going to put on there. I do use gloves. Um, a very nice pair here from Moradness. Good stuff. Um, those are the only two that I use.
I have zip ties for my cables as well as my emergency stop button, and I have coat hangers screwed into my 80/20 rig to hang my VR and my steering wheels on.
Clever.
I you're gonna like this one, Brad. I use a lot of zip ties. I have Velcro straps, but I use the most part that's holding the zip ties are holding is on my wind simulator. We all know how you like wind simulators, Brad. Uh, it's the only way I could get the wind simulator mounted to my rig.
Just if you bought a fan, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Oh no, the fan's on the other side too. With it's zip tied to the one on my keyboard tray. Um, I have gloves. I have my custom made. A guy that we got on the show a while ago. Used to make shoes and gloves, and I bought a custom pair of gloves with my frozen cactus logo on them and my name. And one thing that I thought's kind of interesting that's happened recently is since I play Diablo on the side for gaming, I've bought a different type of mouse that has RGB in it and the special mini keyboard type thing. It's a special Razer keyboard, but it's kind of been lighting up for iRacing. So when I see the lights flashing beside me when I'm revving through the range or when I'm on pit road, so that's the kind of rev lights that I've noticed recently because of my mouse and my little keyboard.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have the Razer keyboard full size, and it has LED colors, and and you'll get you can set it up a lot of different ways. You can set it up like an iFlag.
It freaks me out when you get the blue flag if someone's trying to pass you because it's so bright, and I'm wondering why it's a solid. The other ones don't really. For some reason the blue flag seems to be the brightest.
That's because blue is the brightest color. All right, we got a rig, Mike. TR8.
The TR8 is 600. TR8 Pro actually from Track Racer, $693. It's a tubular style cockpit. Where they got advertisements popping up, so I can't see it. But hold on. What a website they
I was
got
gonna
here.
say their website's
It's kind of spammy.
it's a booby trap.
It's very spammy. I'm like trying to get rid of this bar at the top so I can see a picture of it. But yeah, their website's pretty spammy. But it kind of reminds me of the Alpine tubular cockpit that they've been selling. But this is like a cheaper version of that, is what it is. That's the way I would read this.
I'm stuck on a page here where it's going through all the people that are kind of endorsing the product, and I found my new favorite person, Dan Burkett. He is my new favorite driver as a drift racer. I love his haircut.
Look, I have a Track Racer TR160, and I love it. I just couldn't go tubular. There's just the issue of expandability and being able to add stuff to it. That's why I went 80/20.
Yeah,
What
I
it really
don't ever get
appeals.
excited about non 80/20.
Now, what appeals to me though, Brad, is the way that the wheelbase can be moved closer to you, angles, that whole thing the way it can be adjusted. Which right now on mine, I don't have that kind of adjustment. I have to take stuff apart to move
So
stuff.
why do you want to adjust it?
Well, for one, I might be able to get rid of my wheel extensions and make that lighter if I could get the wheelbase close enough to me. I don't know. The Formula wheel and the oval wheels don't line up perfectly to where I want them, and so I would think the base can move.
Okay, I'm just curious. I'm just asking why you want to move it. That's all. I mean, again, if
What have you ever measured the difference, Mike?
It's a few inches. It's pretty minor.
Is that
But I have to reach out farther for the Formula wheel than I do the oval wheel.
Is that
yeah, well,
is that
sure, because your oval wheel is a deep dish wheel. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. But
guess that makes sense.
you're always gonna an oval wheel is always going to be closer to your body than a Formula wheel anyway.
I probably got it where it needs to be, with it being stationary. But I like the idea of being able to move it. I just think that's keen.
Now, Mike, are you measuring in guy inches or female inches?
So, but the concern too, on the other hand, is if it is movable, does that present flex into the system? Which I'm real keen about no flex, and so for what I've seen from the Alpine rig, there's no flex in that one, but I have yet to see a review on this one.
All right, the next question, Brad, you can cover the video, but we throw the question out to everybody. And the question is, are the active pedals worth it? I remember us experiencing quite the sticker shock when they first came out.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I did not get a chance to look at this yet. So, Mike, this
I
is
did.
good.
Yeah, I was drooling. Sim Racing Den got themselves the SemiCube active pedal. They got the base. They got the throttle, the $360 euro, 360 euro throttle that goes with it. That's how you make it affordable. You don't buy active, 3 active pedals for 6,000. You get 1 active pedal for the brake, and then you buy, other pedals to go with for the clutch and throttle. So a couple of tidbits I learned was if you have the Heiskensveld Ultimates or Heiskensveld Ultimate Plus, those are fully compatible with active brake, where you can literally plug in a Heiskensveld throttle and clutch directly into the active brake, and they can be all run in the same software, where you can even do the curves on the throttle and everything for the Heiskensveld in the SimiCube software. And I thought that was pretty neat. And that might be the sweet spot, is get two Heiskensveld Ultimates for your throttle and clutch, and then buy the active brake to go with it. The
Yeah,
other thing,
whoa. But Huskenfeld doesn't sell just the throttle and the clutch. That'll sell to get the throttle and the brake, and then you can buy the clutch. But what are you going to do with the
uh,
brake?
that's a throwaway. So you have to buy three and not use one of them.
So you buy everything and then sell the brake.
Who wants just a brake?
Or rig the brake up for with where it's really soft and works as a clutch.
Or you use the or you use the brake as a handbrake.
No, on the SimCoach pedals, the only difference between the clutch and the brake, they're the exact same assembly. Okay, they're both hydraulic, and the only difference is the little adjustment stoppers in between the cylinder that determine how stiff it is, how much resistance there is. On the brake, there's these really, really hard shells that are packed in there super densely, and that's what it makes it so hard to push, and it relies so much more on pressure. And then on the clutch, it's just got a different set of cushions, springs that have a much softer feel. So you could take the brake from the Huskenveld and make it feel like a clutch.
Well, the Huskenfeld clutch is going to be completely different. The way that the travel is it creates that, when you got a clutch, you've got the first stage, and then you got a second stage of it. So that's what the Huskenfeld does.
It's meant to feel like a hinge.
Yeah, it's a stage.
David, remind me at the end of the show, after the show, I got to ask you a question about your sim coaches.
So,
Well, on the SimCoaches, they're literally the same pedal. I don't know about the Huskenfeld brake versus this Huskenfeld clutch, but a brake could be made to feel like a clutch. You just make it pretty soft, and you're just not that. The clutch feel is just not as critical in a sim car, because you're not really having to worry about actually matching the revs and not stalling the car in the same way. And
so he had hard time finding any complaints about the active pedal, except for maybe the pedal face was a little small. He did buy the SimCore pedal face upgrades that SimCore offers for this, um, and he did think those were better. But in iRacing, it's really about the ABS or anti-lock brake, um, and like traction control and RPMs, and you can feel different things in it. And he kind of talks about that when some of the other videos I've seen haven't really gone into it, but he goes through the different effects available. Like for example, he talks about the G-force effect, and it provides a little bit of movement in the pedal to kind of give you a sensation of G-force as you're braking into a corner or whatever. um, Pretty cool. Now, as an oval racer that does sometimes do road racing, I question whether I really need this or not. I think if money was no object, yeah, I would do it.
I am still super, super satisfied with the SimCoach brake.
Yeah, and we buy equipment. Most of us do, to buy once, and keep forever. That's what you buy when you buy a sim coach pedal. And this would be like one of these once in a lifetime purchases too.
All right, so didn't we talk about Sarah Nochi setting up a rig, and it looks like she has active pedals.
Yeah, she does. And She has all semi-cube equipment. She basically puts it on her cockpit this week, um, and goes through the installation and configuration, first impressions. I really like Sarah's channel. I actually was in the comments chatting with her, telling her that we were going to mention her on the show today.
I'm blitzing through trying to see, did she get 2 active pedals?
No, I don't think she did. Oh, wait, maybe she did. Yeah, she did. There are, look at 752.
There you go. She's either already getting all the influencer gifts or she's got a nice chunk of change.
I think it's the influencer gifts.
Yeah, she got shipped these, I think, without paying for them. But that, man, I'm kind of jealous of that. That's quite a shipment,
To be honest,
So on her configuration, she has the active pedal on the throttle and the brake, and then she's got that 360 euro dollar throttle as the clutch. You can see it over on the left side.
Yeah, so like I said, you could multi-purpose any of the pedals to be a clutch. It's just not the most important pedal as far as feel.
I was just gonna say, her, even if it is influencer giving her thing, it's working because we're advertising it for her, helping her page. It's kind of just doing the same thing.
And if she's got the established, she's got 11.8 subscribers, 0.8K, which is not bad in the sim racing niche.
And she's fairly new channel, I think. I mean, we've only been watching her in the last few months, I think, or at least new to me. Well, David, how about you take this one? Speaking of sim coaches,
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch the video, but we've got one from Sim Coaching, and he's apparently presenting a $45,000 dollar sim rig.
Yeah, so I did watch this. It just kind of details them installing this for a client, from delivery setup to coaching. But it's I think it was 8 degrees of motion, maybe, or 6 or 8. I don't remember. But
he called it 8.
8, yeah. So, but it was pretty cool. Very very big. Apparently, they had everything already set up. Took them, I guess, about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get, put together. Had it up running, and then spent some time coaching the guy. It was pretty neat. If again, if I win the lottery, there will be signs.
Now, those flat monitors look nicer than curved monitors, even though I run uh, VR. I guess I just kind of like the flat look.
I do
Yeah,
too. I think if I ever do big ones, they'll be flat.
yeah. I don't. I think you get too much distortion with the curves.
The thing I found hardest with the curves is to get them to line up smoothly.
It's a struggle with flats too. Trust me.
Got a good view of the pedals right around 444. And in this case, he just has the gas and the brake.
He's got the Scorpion PT actuator motion system. We've talked about that before. I think it was 16,000 or something. I can't remember.
And I was gonna see if I could point out where the little stoppers are that you put in for the adjustment, but I can't see them from this particular view.
Why those are you? They do give a good shot of his pedal though, and you can see how hefty those look. The big silver shiny stainless steel.
I'm telling you, when you press it, it just feels like you're pressing a brake in a car. Whereas the old load cells never did. There's very little travel, but just a little, but it's all pressure. It's just how hard you're pressing with your leg. All right, next we have a list of apps Crew Chief, Eye Overlay, Race Labs, On-Screen Spotter, Blind Spot Detector, Sim Hub, Fuel Calculator, Sound Shift, Yellow Flag Detection, and FOV Calculator. So, did this guy just review them all, Brad?
Yeah, it's the same guy that we saw up with the 5 apps or the 5 things that you needed for your rig. Just give some suggestions. I think these are good for people that are getting new into sim racing and not familiar with a lot of the stuff that's out there. We talked about a lot of these, Crew Chief and then Race Labs. Some of us use some of this stuff. I know Dave uses Crew Chief. I've used it off and on. Used SimHub at times. Now use JRT, Race Labs, and
Sim
whatnot.
racing apps.
Yeah, sim racing apps. So again, for if you never looked into that, I would suggest you watch it. Again, there's always good stuff that you can pick out. The FOV calculator is good. If you're going to invest the money and go in with triples, you definitely need to spend the time to get your field of view correct. You've spent a lot of money with your setup, and don't just throw in some funky numbers and run like you're sitting in the back seat, driving a car.
I don't know exactly how the on-screen spotter works, if it's going to be similar to the JRT on-screen spotter, but that JRT on-screen spotter, which I think Mike actually turned me onto at some point, man, that is the biggest difference
It's
maker of
gold.
anything on sport on ovals, because you really it's just about as good as having a real spotter versus the iRacing spotter, because you get a sense of door bumper clear. You can see which part beside he's there, right? You can see if you're moving ahead of him or if he's got momentum on you without having to turn your head.
Yeah, it's just I tried it. It's way too much stuff going on at one time for me.
It's kind of, I like it because it's in the peripheral. I mean, I don't focus on it, but you kind of notice it. You see that triangle, creeping on you, and you can see the momentum. Like David said, the momentum he has. Is he going to get to you? Are you going to be clear? In oval, I find it very valuable. It's like radar.
Yeah, if it feels too cluttery, you probably don't have it quite right in the right spot. It's lined up for me where when they're behind me, the arrows are just under the windshield, and then it's outside where the cars would be. So it's really just like a HUD in an airplane, and it's just, once you get used to it, you don't you're not you're aware of it, but it's just part of the scene. You're just reading it instinctively. You're not really having to take your eyes off of the car to see it. It's just right there where you can process it, but still look at the car. And then my dashboard is down where the dash is on a car, and when I'm in a tight race with right on top of cars, I don't even look down at that. I do not. I just stay on the spotter, or not on the. I stay on the car in front of me and the mirrors and the spotter.
So I use sim racing apps for overlays as well as the JRT dash and the JRT visual spotter. And then on my 4 screen, I have the JRT timing and scoring. And then the Crew Chief app is just plainly Crew Chief or spotter and Crew Chief audio in the headset. I run it in addition to the regular iRacing spotter, and it's almost like having 2 spotters. And sometimes one will call out something that the other one won't, and so it's like you get more information by having both of them. But it's really busy in the headset when you have 2 spotters and a Crew Chief saying stuff to you. But if you like that kind of, more info the better. It's gold.
I do the same thing, but I do have the game spotter set to minimum. Also,
Right.
also the JRT timing screen. I have a one of the JRT timing screens, because you can make 4 different settings. I have one of them set to work like a relative box. So I use that as my relative box instead of the relative box, and not you can see when you're gaining on people or losing on them. And I also have it show 3 cars in front instead of just, or no, I have it show 4 cars in front instead of just 3 cars in front. And you can see where your teammates are and other notes that you've taken on certain drivers and if they're within your relative zone or not.
And then SimHub, I also use for a variety of things. The wind sim, it drives that. It drives the lights on my Formula wheel. Um, it can drive butt kickers and whatnot as well. So there's a lot of things you can do with SimHub. Must have app if you're doing stuff like that.
All right. Well, time kind of snuck up on us. Let's wrap up hardware and jump on to results, Mike.
NIS NASCAR iRacing Series Friday Open at Dover. I had a good run going, and on a restart, a bonehead in front of me spun his tires and hit the wall. I slowed down so I didn't pass him on the left, and the guy behind me pushed me past the start finish line, causing me a drive-through black flag penalty. It took me forever to get the lucky dog, but I eventually did. And then about 30 to go, I got absolutely destroyed by some guy pushing me into the wall. Chris Waldron, P16, struggled all race fighting the car loose, figured out how to drive it, and was flying. Missed a big wreck that took out David Hall, spun crossing the start finish to end up 16th. David.
I guess that's what happened. I got took out. I actually don't remember Friday because the one on Sunday sticks in my head more.
All right, Kyle Pendergraft, P4, started P6, ran a solid race from start to finish, went 52 laps on the first run and held a top 5, and then caution lap 115 and got to the lead and held it for 10 laps. Ended up slamming the outside wall and had wheel damage, and the car was able to catch a few cautions and fix the damage, and we were back on the hunt for a top 5 and walked away with P4. Bobby Jonas, P3, led the most laps at 72, had the fastest lap of the race, and I smacked the wall coming to the white, but if I didn't, I would likely have been wrecked. All right, John Curley wrecked out early 20, got wiped out by a guy who came up on the back straight and gave me 8 minutes damage on lap 3. That put me dead last, P36. Teammates told me in chat to stay in the race. Great advice because I gained 16 spots. I was as fast as the leaders the rest of the way, but no way to catch up that far down. I could have easily been a top 5 car if not for the miscreant that crashed me. The guy who did it is a known wrecker and took out a lot of cars throughout the course of the race. Got to look out for those guys. Saturday fixed. Dover. Is this right?
You don't normally run
Grand
on Saturday, do you?
Yeah, I work on Saturdays. That's why I'm a little confused.
You were the one that put it in there, not me.
Was
P13 was running pretty good until I got wrecked a few times. I had over 3 minutes damage. I got it fixed, got up to about this, and then some guy doored me to the wall, and I finished P13. Justin wrecked out and then got a passing under yellow and then rage quit. Tom got wrecked out early and got the repairs done and finished.
Did you run Sunday fixed because you don't have any results in Sunday fixed?
I think that's it. I just read Sunday fixed. All right, so let's talk Sunday Open. I finally did it, a P4. I got a nice front run. I had a speeding on pit road, but was able to recover. I ran the back half of the top 10 most of the day. We started the final restart on 3rd, but the leader got a good restart, and I didn't have anything for him. I'll take that nice top 10. Chris P22 got caught up in an accident and forgot to pit. They ended up losing a lap eventually and got a wave around. After that, you name it, I hit it. David.
Wrecked a couple of times, and the last one was by a doubly lapped car. He was going his second lap down and was trying to pit, and came back up on the track and destroyed the leader and me. I was running P13 a lap down, and it was one of the situations where I was only gaining a lot of spots because a lot of guys couldn't make the tires last 70 laps, and I could. Right, a lot of y'all started pitting early. I think was it Brad or Brian? Yeah, pitted early, and I was well ahead of him. He was not going to catch me if I stayed out. But yeah, of course this happens. It's like a Fox 2 missile. They're just coming straight at me. I can't nothing I can do. It just, just I'm letting the leader go and then we both get destroyed. So for this week I had uncontrollable instruments every race. So no good points night. I pretty much with the way the road courses work and the terrible points I get at road courses with it, I don't think I'm in the series hunt anymore unless literally 5 drivers in front of me have a miracle level of unfortunate events to catch me up. So sure, something could happen, but I don't see it happening. And so I've stopped looking at the points.
I mean, you're 150 back from me. I'm third. I'm probably still in the hunt, but I'm still 180 from the leader or something. So I'm going to need some help as well.
Long year, guys.
That's right.
It is a long year, but like I'm saying, I'm not having to just catch one guy. I have to have 5 other guys all have multiple weeks of horrible luck.
And again, if it happened to you, it could happen to them as well.
That's true. They're going to have bad weeks too. I mean, we're only a third of the way through, so
Can, but won't to all of them. Not all 5 of them.
there's some stout guys in the hunt. They got Drew Blaze running first, Kevin Chalk second. I'm third. I think you're fifth.
I went back and I looked at the championship points for the season before, and you had to average about 190 points per week after drop weeks to win the championship last year.
All right, let's keep rolling. Justin Pearson. He was headed for tires on a green run and ended up speeding on pit road and rage quit. Brian Curry put it up front on a longer green run for tires, but it didn't play out well. P11. Greg, P4.
I'm going to talk more about this on my final thoughts thing because of what happened in the middle of the race. So it was a good race, but I'll explain more at the final thoughts.
All right. And then Kyle Pendergraft, P2. Started P7, just kept it in the top 10 for a third of the race and marched my way to the front, leading 21 laps. Final restart with 18 to go. I was the leader and held the lap for 4 laps, and I could just feel I was burning up the tires with second place right on my bumper. So I backed off and decided to run behind him, hoping he would burn up his tires as we drove away from third place. I couldn't find the grip I needed to make a move on the leader, so I settled for a P2. All right, Kansas Wednesday Open. I drove from 16th to top 10 pretty quick. Towards the end, we had a long green flag to the end, and I was too short on fuel, and I was basically pedaling it the entire run to be able to make it. I literally ran out of fuel right at the line. I fell back to finish P14. Um, David, you and I pitted at the same time. You had no problem on fuel. I had to pedal it. I mean, that really shows the different driving styles. But you had a P7.
Yeah. Not only was I able to make it on fuel, and I saw a lot of guys having to save on fuel, and I don't think everybody that pitted on that last stop did they? There were some people on older tires, were there not?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was literally right on the edge of the window. It was like 69 laps or 70 laps. And I saved really hard under the caution for one. I was shutting the engine down, clutching it. And I made it with fuel to spare. And on probably, especially running, I mean, I tried to run, actually, I didn't really try to save tires or fuel. I ran safely aggressive, I guess you could call it. I would take what the car would give me. The one thing I was just avoid prolonged side by side battles. I'd either get behind the guy if he got a really huge run, or I'd wait until I could set up a really huge run instead of just trying to barely get my nose in on entry. And that just meant that the tires were good after 70 laps, gained a lot of positions. And so I've got a decent finish for Kansas this week, which is good because I, again, won't be able to run Friday because I have performances. It's been a busy month.
Yeah, nice to get that top 10. Justin, P last. I think we made it 16 laps. Teammate Tom Dreiling and I came up on a wreck, and Tom hit the car in front of me. Not Tom's fault at all. It was just unlucky. Brad, P26.
Yeah. I mean, I put in here too mad to want to explain, but I will. So, really just aggressive racing early on. Got to run 3 wide. Pushed up into the wall coming off a 4. Ended up damaging the right front. Spent the next half of the race just kind of hanging in the back, but ended up getting the damage fixed. Drove from P34 back up to P3, um, only to get a passing under yellow penalty with about 5 to go. Guy gets wrecked, and just so frustrated with iRacing. Guys is wrecked ahead of me, brings out the yellow. He's got a broken toe link, yet iRacing wants to put him back ahead of me. And, there's nothing I can do. He's can't even catch up to the field. So I don't even know what to do. I ended up with a passing under yellow, 30-second penalty. Um, end up 26. So just super frustrating. I don't know if I should have just stopped on the track. Maybe that's what I do next time and just sit there, piss everybody off. I don't know what else to do. It's just super frustrating night to run 2.5 hours just to end up 26th.
Now, as long as you don't pit, you're okay, though,
Yeah,
right?
but we were all pitting. So, and I thought about that. I was like, but it's like, we was like 10 laps to go or whatever it was. If I'd have stayed out, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in hindsight, I should have stayed out, but tires were shot. Um, Again, just you know,
Next time, if you want to pit, you have to stop. And that's what people are doing.
it's just there's got to be a way to fix it. I mean, if someone is damaged and they're caught up in a wreck, there's no reason to give them their spot back.
Well, could you protest that? I mean, obviously, it doesn't help you in race, but that guy should tow. If he can't make it back to you, he has to tow.
There's
Yeah.
nothing in the sporting code that says that.
That's unfortunate, I know, because it's just a coding problem.
It is, and again, I don't know what you do if it's if you got, I mean, if you end up with with an X, you don't get the lucky dog. So why can't you code it to where if you got damage from a wreck, you don't get your spot back? It's just again, other people's races get ruined because of stupid stuff.
I think it should be not that you get maybe it's damage and your speed is reduced below, the pace of the cars around you. Like you spin out, you stop on track. That alone is enough to not get your
Yeah.
spot back.
It's just I could have handled better being getting wrecked by somebody as opposed to just losing 23 positions because of a stupid penalty.
All right, Kyle Pendergraph, P9, started 18th and just did my best to avoid the 3 and 4 wide in the beginning of each restart. Kept it clean, was on a different strategy than most, and was trying to make it with pitting as little as possible. Held the lead for 8 laps and just couldn't hold off the fresher tire cars. Stayed in the top 10, and once the run went long, the car came to life on the high line, and I started gaining ground on the cars in front of me, but I just ran out of laps and wheeled it home to a P9 and a 0X. Chris Waldron, P18. Car is mad fast. Got caught up in a wreck while P6. One restart was spun. Avoiding a wreck, went a lap down, pitting for repairs, got the lucky dog, and drove from 26th to 18th in 4 laps. I smell a first NIS win this week. Confidence is high with Chris. I love it. Thursday Open. This one hurt. I was moving forward, ripping the top, and this is top split. We have Garrett Maines and Jimmy Mullis and Briar LaPrat and all these super heavy hitters, really high I ratings. Anyway, I was ripping the top and top split. I was moving up. Uh, Around lap 36, a guy almost spun up ahead of us, and we were all kind of going around him, except this one particular individual who ran out of talent right in front of me and basically wrecked several of us, and I ended up with the blown engine, DNF. Justin Pearson ran with me. He got a P20, had decent speed. I have things I need to get better on. You got to be in the first couple rows on the last restart, or you're going to get wrecked. Let's switch gears. IndyCar iRacing Series. Tom Dreiling, P14, got hit from behind. Greg, you got a P6.
Yeah, I was second split if I remember what it was. I think it was in the second split. I probably could have finished better. I had one mistake where the last corner where you're coming towards pit road, I got a little wide. I touched the grass and went off towards pit road and broke the wing a little bit. So I just kind of went down pit road at that time because I was already out there. Did my pit stop. It was within a kind of a window, so it didn't really affect me. It just put me off sequence compared to everybody else, and my race was full of attrition. Just a lot of guys wrecking out or spinning out. The hardest part I found in it was the lap guys weren't acting like lap cars. They were just there running like there was no other cars around them, and it was causing wrecks to. I think the leader got taken out twice. The guy that won came from like the back of the pack. Like it was just not a great race, but I had so much fun in that race. It was really fun. They are very long races on road courses.
All right, and I ran P4. Holy cow, at Barber. Let's go. I started like 15th. I got to 8th on lap 1. I just kept working my way forward. It was a great race, no mistakes really. Look, I just bought this track on Thursday. I ran a few laps on Thursday. I ran a few laps before the race on Saturday. I couldn't even keep it on the track during practice. I'm like, this isn't going to go well. But boy, when I get in race conditions, I kept it on the track, and I actually, by the end of that race, I felt very comfortable with the track, and I really enjoyed Barber Motorsports. I mean, the IndyCar at Barber is like the perfect combination. Um, it's super technical, it's fast, it's hard. You got to really drive the corners and be aggressive.
It's like it feels like a roller coaster because of the change in elevation.
Yeah, the up down, and yeah, really had a good time. And so I was strutting around. I was in the chat, you guys. Man, P4 and IndyCar, and I got a P4 at Dover, and I'm just the bee's knees here. All right, let's keep going. FIA at Road Atlanta qualified P4 out of 21. Had a good battle for second and third place, but I finally prevailed and pulled away. But then I made a mistake and spun out, and then later spun out again, and fell back to finish P6. Still a good finish. A Open Brad at Kansas P17.
Yeah, ran Tuesday night just to try to get a little warm up for Wednesday night. Justin and I were in there together, and kind of the opposite of what happened to him last night. I was tucked up behind him and had a couple cars get together off of turn two, and as he was trying to clear the wreck, he ended up hitting a car, which knocked it back up into me. Ended up with 8 minutes of damage. Decided to go ahead and get it fixed. Ended up going 9 laps down, and from that point on, it was just staying in it for SR. Again, just didn't get much out of the race. The goal was to try to figure out maybe some adjustments, anything to help for Wednesday night. Just two bad nights. Super frustrated again. Just not how I wanted the week to go.
All right, and then Greg, P8 and B Open.
Yeah, I wanted to run uh, the Xfinity car just to see how it felt. I hadn't run one in a while, and I was trying to do it before the A Open, but I misjudged the time. I asked Brad. I was kind of like, I think I screwed up, and I'm not going to make the A Open or the A race for the NIS. So I was like, okay, well, I guess this is my only race tonight, but I finished P8. Love the way that car kills the tires at the end of a run. So managing them was good. The lack of downforce in that car is really, really fun. So I really enjoyed Kansas there. I'm not sure. I haven't really taken some laps in the A car, so we'll see. But the B car, to me, was a lot of fun. And ripping the high line and being able to move around the track wherever you wanted to was really good in that car. But I'm probably going to run it a lot more from now on.
Yeah, I've found even the racing I think is even better in the B car. Just just much better than especially NIS.
Well, I had a moment there. I was in third or fourth place on a restart there, and we went 3 wide, and I could feel the car being sucked around because the car on the outside of me, it just didn't want to, no matter what I tried, half throttle, anything like that, anything that I could figure out I normally would do to try and get myself out of that situation, it just wanted to come around. So I just had to let out of it and get out of the center of it. But it just, you can feel the lack of aero with that car, which was really, really fun, and you can manipulate the car a lot better. So I had fun. Probably should have had a better finish, but it was my first race back in a long time, and we'll see how it goes for the rest of the season. I look forward to even running the road courses with that one.
Okay, let's jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
I found it interesting as I've been in splits with a lot of the guys since my iRating has come down. Y'all are pointing out some of the guys that y'all repeatedly have trouble with, and I see him do the exact same thing. All right, you named a guy Wednesday night, and I watched him go crazy on one of the restarts where a lot of guys in the front were on older tires. He makes a crazy aggressive move. I let him go. I think I might even, I don't know if I mentioned this in the results or not. Not 5 laps later, he causes a wreck with somebody, just clears himself, and boom. I managed to avoid that one, I believe. But I'm just finding it funny that we're seeing the same guys in NIS cause 90% of the cautions, and there's nothing we can do about it, which is what sucks. I understand that they're mostly trying to just make it so that somebody doesn't ruin the quote unquote service, and they can't be judging the fault of every incident. But it sure would be nice if you could collect a portfolio of a guy doing shit move after shit move after shit move after shit move after shit move, and then see something done about it.
Maybe like an up vote, down vote, thumbs up, thumbs
No,
down
it needs to be
rating
on
of
the
some
official.
kind,
It
or
needs to be it needs to be done by officials, not. I don't want it to turn into social media competition because I'd probably lose that.
good point. All right, Greg Hector's final thought.
I wanted to discuss what I was feeling in Dover this week, or last week, I guess. So I ran that Saturday morning race, and it's 200 laps, and around lap 100, I was not feeling it. I was probably between, I think it was 25th or 29th, like in between 25th and 30th there, and I just couldn't make any moves. And it was restart after restart to start for the first 100 laps, and I just felt like, am I losing my skills because of this car, the way I drive it? Is there something I gotta do differently because of how much my season's gone to shit? And I was thinking of kind of quitting. 100 laps in, I wasn't wrecked, didn't have any damage, things like that, and I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And it kind of just got, I was like, all right, we'll just run it one more green flag here and see what happens. And it ended up having a long run. And something clicked in that long run. I don't know what it was, but I think it was 50, we went 55, 60 laps on a long run. And I went from 29th to 7th on the long run, passing guys. I realized at that point, it wasn't me. My driving style wasn't going to work for the short run there. It was meant for the long run in that race. I was laying off early, which was costing me positions and keeping me where it was. So once I drove up to 8th, I decided to kind of just be a little bit more aggressive early on the tires, not try and save them, to keep the positions I have, and then kind of just float myself in. And that's what worked. Finally works. It just clicked for that race, and I felt more like it was like I don't know if it was like a relief, but it was more like redemption, that maybe it's not just something, I got to change a little bit of what my habits are in some of these races, but I I just didn't like what was going on, and without that long run, it could have been a worse story for me, I guess, with this car. It just, something wasn't changing. I had so much fun in the IndyCar the night before, and then I was so down on my racing skills in one race. It just, I don't know if I just don't want a car to suck the life out of what I like to, what I need to do to have fun.
Well, I think, David, Greg, sorry. Eh, I find myself, I have to flip my mind when I get in the A car. It's just, you have to drive differently. I love the B car because you can finesse the car a little bit. You can save tires. It's a different mindset. But when you get in the A car, you just got to go. I mean, it's just, you have to go. And um, I have to drive a lot more aggressively in that car just because it's so hard to get track position. Um, so I understand where you're coming from.
All right, and then Brad Wren, final thought.
Uh, just frustrated over the last two nights. Kansas is the last place I got uh, a win, and it's all the way back in 2016 in NIS. It's my only NIS win. Really like this track. Felt like I had a really good car on a long run. Um, so gonna run tomorrow night. Just really don't want to leave one on the table because I feel like I really got a good shot. If not a win, at least a top three. So just again frustrated over two nights. Been looking forward to this race since getting back into the service. Just need the W.
You need the luck that the W will come. I mean, you've been knocking on the door for weeks now, so. Okay, my final thought. Kind of talking about driving talent and ability and confidence, like Greg was talking about. Man, that IndyCar at Barber really boosted my confidence. For me to go buy a track, not have 20 laps on it, and finish P4 in my first race on it in an IndyCar, man, I mean, that's just, it really shows that the FIA F4 car has paid off. Me running that weekly um, over the last many months has really refined my skills so I can step into this big, powerful car, the Indy car, and perform. And like Greg said, we're having a really good time in that series. Looking forward to the next event. I don't even know where it is, but I'm looking forward to it.
Indy Road next week.
Indy Road. All right. And I know that track, so maybe I can do better in P4. So, hey, with that, we'll see you on the track later. Okay.